Maryland basketball should have no trouble taking down Grand Canyon.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland basketball should have zero trouble taking down Grand Canyon. It starts today. March Madness is here for all those who get excited about this stuff, for all the college basketball fans, even the people that aren't college basketball fans. I think I saw everybody in my class today at 8 a.m. Everybody was filling out brackets on their computer instead of paying attention, which makes sense to me. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but I could not be more excited, and I think everybody else is that Maryland is actually in the tournament. March Madness is obviously fun no matter what, whether Maryland's in, whether Maryland's out. It's a fun event to watch. I think everybody would agree with that, but it is so much more fun with whoever your team is. I think everyone can agree is that when Maryland or when whoever your team is, when they're in it, it is so much more fun to watch. The games become a little bit more exciting. You feel like you kind of have skin in the game a little bit. And so there's a lot of different components to it, but you feel like you watch games a little bit closer, like, oh, Maryland's going to play the winner of this game if they win, or whatever the case is. And so it's just you just watch the game a little bit closer. It's a lot more exciting. And watching the games last year after Maryland ended up not making the tournament, not doing what they needed to do, it doesn't hit quite the same. Obviously, it's still a really exciting time. Obviously, it's still really fun to watch March Madness. It's arguably the best playoff in all of sports. I think a lot of people would say it is. The way that a ton of people watch it that aren't college basketball fans, how everyone fills out their bracket, all those different things. And when your favorite team's in it, it makes it a lot more exciting for everyone. So I think that everyone's kind of on a high. A lot of Maryland fans are on a high right now just because Maryland's actually in the tournament and has a chance to play for their region. And I think a lot of people would agree Maryland's in the race for that region. Maryland could be anybody in that region on any given day, and that gives a lot of excitement. But, of course, we have this game tomorrow on Friday, but, of course, there's games when I'm recording this about to start in around an hour. And so that will be really interesting to see kind of how a lot of these games go. But we'll talk about Maryland. I think the Maryland Terrapins should have an easy game, first-round game against Grand Canyon. I think a lot of people have chosen a lot of different upsets. Obviously, that's how the brackets go. But I feel like this Maryland Grand Canyon one, a lot of the brackets that I look at, a lot of brackets that I kind of dissect and see, a lot of people have Maryland winning this game. A lot of people feel good about the Terps winning this game against Grand Canyon. And I think I would agree with that for sure. I think Maryland should have a pretty easy win against Grand Canyon. Obviously, you don't know what happens. It's March. Crazy stuff happens in the year, whether it's a team that's a 12 seed making it to the Elite Eight or whatever the case is. You never know what can happen. And sometimes it's the most unlikely stuff that just seem to happen in this tournament. So you got to kind of hope the March Madness gods are on your side. But I think Maryland's first round matchup against Grand Canyon is actually a really good matchup. And when I really break it down, when I really look at things, I think Maryland has a really good shot initially to win it. But to me, Grand Canyon doesn't have a lot of the components of a team that's going to upset you, a team that's going to beat you, a team that's going to have the recipe to be able to take you down. First of all, when we look at their scores, though, Grand Canyon has been pretty good this year against teams similar to the caliber of Maryland. I would say Maryland's the best team Grand Canyon has played. I don't think they've played quite a team like us, but they've definitely been solid against some of the big-time conference schedules this year, they definitely had some solid games. Like they beat a Stanford who wasn't that good this year, but still beating a Stanford as a team like Grand Canyon, like that's a pretty good win for them. They only lost to Georgia by 5, and you talk about a Georgia team that's in the tournament, a Georgia team that I think plays Gonzaga today. I want to say around 4:00. You guys can double check that. You guys probably know a little bit better than me, but that's going to be an interesting game, Georgia versus Gonzaga. But to me, that's for Grand Canyon's sake. That's a pretty good loss to take. If you're only losing to Georgia by 5, a tournament team this year, a team that kind of has had a really solid year. They have been amazing, but that's definitely like solid. And yeah, Grand Canyon lost, but it shows that they definitely had some fight. And then they lost by 11 to Arizona State, which is another team. So they're not like getting blown out by teams that are high level in terms of conference or anything like that. So they've been pretty good against major conference teams. But at the same time, they haven't played anybody as good as Maryland. Georgia's good, but they ain't as good as Maryland. And that's a big reason why I think Maryland should win this game. Obviously, I know it's March, and I'll get into more points in a little bit, and weird stuff happens and weird stuff goes on. But to me, this is one of those games where Maryland should be able to control this game because Grand Canyon hasn't seen anybody with the size, with the ability, with the potential, with the talent that Maryland has. Georgia's good, but they ain't us. Stanford's decent in terms of the grand scope of college basketball when you put everyone together, but they ain't as good as us. And so I think that this Grand Canyon team, they haven't seen or been tested with a team that is better than us or a team that's similar to us. Like some of these even like 14 seeds, 13 seeds, like they've seen some of the best teams in the country. Like maybe they saw Auburn early on in the season, or maybe they saw Purdue early in the season, or maybe they saw Michigan State in out of conference play. This Grand Canyon team hasn't played a team like us. I know Georgia's a tournament team. That's probably the best team they played. But still, Georgia's not, I don't think, in the same kind of tier as us. A good team, a tournament team that a lot of people are going to watch today, but they're not as good as us. And then another reason why I feel really good about Maryland not getting upset and avoiding a weird March Madness loss. The three-point shooting of Grand Canyon isn't good. And to me, the recipe to upsetting a team, the recipe to a team that is lesser talented, beating a team that's more talented, it's three-point shooting. When you talk about football and that, if we had a March Madness in football, there'd be a lot less upsets because there's not that many ways to cancel out the talent. But basketball is different. You can really make up for talent. You can really make up for things if you shoot the ball at a really high level. And we see it every single year. We see it literally every year. A team just shoots the ball really well one day and they beat someone really good. Last year we saw it. Kentucky playing the 14 seed. I forget that kid's name, but shot the ball at a really high level, and Kentucky ended up losing that game and couldn't win it down the stretch and couldn't figure out a way because the other team just outshot them. But this Grand Canyon team don't shoot the ball that well. So I feel really good about Maryland potentially avoiding an upset, and not just avoiding an upset, but winning this game pretty handily. Because this year, Grand Canyon only shoots 31% from the three-point arc. They have one kid that shoots above 40% from them from three. This kid, Caleb Shaw, but he doesn't even play a ton. He plays about 17 minutes per game, but he's not a starter for them. And other than that, they don't have anyone that is playing that shoots above 40% from the three. So they don't have anyone that's like, whoa, that guy scares you. But also when you look in their starting lineup, it's just not a lot of heavy hitters from the three-point line when you look at it. In terms of their guards, Tyon Grant Foster is one of their starting guards who's basically tied for first with their team in points, only shoots 21% from three. Ray Harrison's another one of their guards who shoots the three ball probably better than anyone in their team, really. He's 33%. So it's not like he's killing anybody out there. Micaiah Williams, another guard for them, 25.8% from three. So we're really not too worried about their three ball. Obviously, anybody can have a good shooting day, but to me, that's a huge equalizer. And if a team doesn't have that and hasn't shown that all year, you should, as a team that's way more talented like Maryland is, you should feel pretty good about beating a team like that. And then the other thing I like to think about that can really even out some of these March Madness scores, or in a big reason why a 12 seed will beat a 5 or whatever the case is. To me, it's the turnovers. But Grand Canyon turnovers the ball a lot. 13.2 point turnovers a game compared to Maryland's 10.2, 10.3 turnovers a game. And so to me, when we look at the key stats that can keep Grand Canyon in the game, I'm just not too concerned that they're going to do them at a high level. Obviously, you got to play the game because you just don't know. But what they've shown this year is a team that turnovers the ball a lot and doesn't particularly shoot the 3-ball well. So the recipe to probably pulling off an upset is to be able to make up in the other ways that you can control shooting and turnovers. The places where talent isn't as much in play, but they just don't do those things well. So to me, Maryland should realistically avoid the upset. I'm not too worried about the Terps getting upset in this spot. Obviously, we don't know what can happen, but I just think when you look at those types of things, they don't do them well. And those are, to me, the two ways you upset a team. And unless Grand Canyon does something and comes out shooting better than they ever have, which sometimes happens in these games, Maryland should be all right. And to me, Grand Canyon has relied on talent in their conference to beat teams, and they're not going to out-talent Maryland. So to me, that's a basic breakdown of Grand Canyon and two key stats that I think are huge and a big reason why I think Maryland wins the game. Grand Canyon just don't shoot the 3-ball that well. So I do think the Terps are in a pretty good spot to win because of that. But we'll see exactly what happens. But I do think the Terps should be able to easily win this game. I just don't think Grand Canyon can stick with us. I don't think that they can shoot. They won't outshoot us, and they're going to turn over the ball more than us. And Maryland's defense has been pretty good at turning over the forcing turnovers. So I think Maryland's actually in a really good position to win this game. Let's talk about some of the key matchups before the game. What players do we need to be worried about on Grand Canyon? How do they win games? All those different things. We'll talk about that next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out online, shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just your budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I used Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy in the crowd, and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets to events shouldn't be stressful. That's where Game Time comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at an unbeatable price. Game Time makes it a lot easier. I've been trying to go to different games and Celtics games now that I'm living in Boston, and Game Time is really good. And I just checked the Game Time app, and there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. With seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and the lowest price guaranteed, you can book with total confidence. So download Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's talk about some of the key matchups of the game for the Terps. Places where I think Maryland can really just dominate this game. To me, when you play some of these lower teams, it's inside. I think that Grand Canyon has their best kid is this kid, Jacoby Coles. He's a really solid player. He's 6'8". He's averaging around 14.8 points per game, so basically 15. And then they have this other kid, Duke Brennan, who's 6'10", 250 pounds, pretty big kid. But to me, Julian Reese and Derek Queen should be able to dominate this game. Their next biggest play is Luke Were, another guy that plays a good amount of minutes for them. but they're not huge inside. Derek Queen, Julian Reese are going to be the two best bigs on the court, which they often are, but especially against a team like Grand Canyon, they should be licking their chops. They should be able to dominate inside. I think that's where we have the matchup. I think that our guards are obviously better than theirs too, but I just think that we want to go inside the Derek Queen and Julian Reese early. Let's not overcomplicate this. Let's not try and make this into a shooting match, even though we're a better shooting team than them. Let's not make this into a guard matchup and we have Gillespie and Rodney Rice trying to win the game. Like, we don't need that in this type of game. There might be a game where we need those guys to really go crazy, but to me, if you feed the ball inside to Reese and Queen, you're going to have a really good opportunity at winning this game, and you're going to put yourself at a really good spot to be able to win this game. So I just don't think we need to overcomplicate this matchup. I think you just give it to Derek Queen and Julian Reese. And if they double, which they could possibly do, then you're going to get some shots out of it. Then we can do some high-low stuff. Then hopefully Celtic can going and those different things. But to me, that's where our advantage is. They're not as big as us. They're not as athletic as us. There's more guards in this world than there are big men that are good. It's harder to find good bigs, and Maryland has two of them that are. One's a freshman of the year, going to be a lottery pick. Another's a 4-year honorable mention Big Ten guy that's been really good for a long time. So I think let's not overcomplicate this. Let's win that part of the game. And then Derek Queen, if we're going to you early, you can't turn over the ball a ton. Like I said, Grand Canyon turns over the ball a lot. So if Maryland just turns over the ball a normal amount, we don't even have to be anything special, then I do think that Terps have a really good shot at really dominating, not just winning, dominating Grand Canyon. But this kid, Jacoby Coles, is an interesting player. Like I said, 6'8", can run the floor for them, does a lot of really good things for them, 230 from Texas. He's a big guy that we need to worry about. That's having a really hot streak. That's a guy that could potentially keep them in the game. He had 22 points against CBU when they won 75-66 a couple games ago. Had a big game against UTA. Had 24 when they lost against ACU. He had 17 points against UTU. He had 19 points. Like, kids playing at a really high level. And whoever has that matchup, whether it's Queen, Reese, Shelton, whoever it is, I'm still kind of unsure if he's a 3 or 4. I think he's more of a 4 for them. But we're going to have to be good on that guy. And if we force other guys to beat us, I just don't really think that they have enough to be able to get it done. But he's definitely a really solid guy, a guy that's been pretty good all year. A guy that I'm concerned about could definitely make somewhat of a run and kind of beat the Terps in that type of way. But that's one of the spots I'm kind of concerned about. But I do think that the Terps can play at a high level there and defend that kid. And then also they have this guard, Tyan Grant Foster, who's been their best guard all year. But last year he actually averaged 20 points per game. So he was really, really good player last year. He just don't shoot the 3-ball great. Didn't make one in their last win against UVU. Shot 33% against in the next 3 games, and then 0% against TAR. I'm sorry for the abbreviations of the teams. To me, you force him to shoot the ball, and then you allow the chips to kind of lie where they must. I don't think you have to do anything too crazy in this game to win this. Those are the two guys I'm worried about. But really, we can kind of pack it in against these guys. And if some reason they're hitting a lot of shots, you can tighten up. But I think we want to kind of force them into the paint, force them to shoot the ball, see kind of what happens with that. They haven't shown the ability to shoot it all year, so make them beat us that way. And if at halftime they made 8 threes and we need to kind of do it differently, then do that. But I think you force those guys to shoot the ball, and I think you'll be in a pretty good spot. So those are kind of some of the matchups I'm looking at. Let's talk about the spread. Who's the favorite? What's the spread? We'll talk about that next. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and you're feeling that lost hours sleep. 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pickup whenever you need. I've been staying up late watching all the tournament action. 5-Hour Energy helps me keep up for the next day. With longer days, I love getting outside for a hike or a run, and tropical burst is my go-to for a quick burst. Whether I'm at a game or traveling, 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab and keeps me feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up to date and stay energized. Let's talk about the spread of the game. I think Maryland covers the spread against Grand Canyon. I really believe that. I think we're better. And I talked to you guys a huge reason why I think Maryland covers. It's just because, to me, I just don't see a way where Grand Canyon has the upset formula or has the formula for us to be able to cover. Like I said, Maryland's minus 10, minus 10 and a half, depending on where you look, somewhere around there. But I just think that Maryland has more to be able to win this game. I don't see a place where Grand Canyon comes out and shoots the ball at a really high level. They just haven't shown that most of the year, so I'm not going to predict them to do that. I just don't see that from a Grand Canyon team that hasn't done very much of that all year. I think that's the way they would be able to stick into the game. I think that's kind of what you would be scared at if you're a Maryland player or a Maryland fan, is a team that's going to shoot the ball at a really high level. But Grand Canyon don't really do that. And so I'm not too worried about some of the shooting percentages. And they also turn over the ball a lot. And I think that plays right into Maryland's defense. To me, I think Maryland's defense has been really solid all year. And I think Kevin Wood has done a really good job of hanging his hat on that side of the floor. And like I said, defense travels, and Grand Canyon, to me, they're going to have trouble scoring against us without shooting the ball, with turning over the ball, with some of our full court kind of press, that 2-2-1. I'm not exactly sure what it is in the back end because you can never see the full screen, but it's like a 2-2-1 where Maryland presses with those two guards and everything. I just think Maryland's going to win in that type of spot, and I think 10 points is reasonable. I just don't see Grand Canyon covering. Now, what scares me is Grand Canyon has played, like I said, some of these other teams well, some of these teams that match up or the most similar matchups in terms of players and talent, like a Georgia, like a Stanford. Like I said, those teams aren't Maryland, but those are the most similar teams to Arizona State. They've played all of them pretty close, and this is March Madness. Like I said, the March Madness gods don't want you to win the game. That you won't win the game. And Grand Canyon will do exactly what I'm saying they won't do. They'll shoot 60% from three and win by 5 points. But to me, we just are too good. I think Derek Queen dominates in this first game. I think we go to him early. I don't think we overcomplicate it. And I feel really good about Kevin Willard in the first round. I thought Kevin Willard had a much tougher first-round game 2 years ago against West Virginia when we were a 9 and they were an 8, as well as West Virginia just was better than us. Maryland's team this year is a lot better than that team last or 2 years ago, and we played a much tougher West Virginia team. So I think Kevin Willard has proven that we've done a lot of good things, or that he can win games in March. And so to me, I feel good about the Terps not only winning this game, but covering this game as well. Obviously, it's tomorrow, so you guys should enjoy the full day of games. It's at 4:00, not a bad time. There's some really weird game times. I know some of you guys work. It's like some games are at like 12, at 1. Like, it starts pretty early. And for those of us who can kind of watch a lot of it, no matter kind of when they take place, it's kind of nice. But I don't think a 4:00 game's terrible. So we'll see exactly what happens. I do like the Terps to win the game, but it should be an interesting matchup, and we'll see exactly how it goes. But I do think Maryland should be in a good spot to be able to win. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.